Hey, it's great to see you again. I'm glad we get to spend a little bit more time together. And I was recently asked what some of the benefits were that I feel that I've gotten out of working here. And so I wanted to share a little bit about that, a little bit about my story, because I think that's a little bit of a difficult question to answer. And I think it can sound a little bit pompous if it's not told correctly. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Vegas, born and raised here. My mom was a school teacher. She taught 7th and 8th grade math for a very long time. Then she became part of the regional professional development program. So she helps implement the curriculum and the math and all of those kinds of things. My dad, he was a dealer at Horseshoes, so neither one of them made a lot of money growing up. They never really taught me about money. I didn't know anything about finances. I wasn't really given a whole lot of things. Not that we didn't have stuff, and I'm not saying that. It wasn't, But what I'm saying is I wasn't privileged. I wasn't given a whole bunch of stuff that I felt even a lot of my friends had. The one thing that I think I really got from my mom was her tremendous work ethic. If there was ever anything she wanted to do or she wanted to put into the house, or if she wanted a nice dinette set, I remember she worked years for this thing. And she would do that. She would take on extra jobs. She still contributed to her savings. She still did all the things. She still took care of us kids. All of those things she took care of, but she would pick up extra jobs so that she could get the nice things that she really wanted in her life on top of doing her savings and everything else. My dad was not really that way. He kind of lived more for the moment. He was more in the now. If he wanted something, he'd go get it. But what he gave me was he was a little bit entrepreneurial. He did great stuff on eBay. He was one of those people that could go to a yard sale and find some piece of junk that somebody was throwing away for a couple dollars, fix it up, clean it up, maybe paint it, and then he'd sell it for hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, right? And so he was great at those kinds of things. I remember him having a bunch of pinball machines and arcade machines. So our house was always the one that all the kids came to, because he was taking these things and putting them in laundromats and trying to make money in different avenues like that. I remember he had gumball machines and candy machines and all kinds of stuff like that. He also he tried doing rock collections and selling those things, and he was always finding stuff and selling it, and he ran a lot of stuff through eBay, and he was just one of those people that knew how to make money. The challenge was he was never really very successful. He didn't really have a system. He wasn't very coachable. He liked trying to do things his way. But I think I got kind of the best of both worlds from them, and watching both of them grow up and how those things kind of related. Because my dad always said things like, man, you got to figure out how to work for yourself, because you don't want to work for somebody else. You just work until you die. And my mom was always like, go to school, get good grades, invest in your education, spend time reading books, and continue to get those degrees on the wall, because that's what's going to get you a good job so you can take care of yourself. So I did that. I followed mom's advice because she was the more successful of the two, so and probably the wiser of the two. So I did that. I went into school. I liked math, probably because mom was teaching math while I was still in her womb. So I picked up some of that stuff, and I loved Legos. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll do some kind of engineering or something. I tried a bunch of other stuff, criminal justice. I tried computer science. Ended up in mechanical engineering. Went to school at UNLV and UNR, and did all kinds of odd jobs while I was going to school. I worked banquet facility for a long time. Kind of an uncle in the family owned this banquet facility here, the Ritz of Las Vegas. So I was working all my nights and weekends there, my weekend nights there, which was good. It kept me out of a lot of trouble. I worked at a furniture place for a little while. I did some time at Foot Locker. All kinds of odd jobs. I was always trying to find different ways to make money. I would do stuff with my dad on eBay and whatever I could do to kind of generate some additional income. So I got into that very early. I knew that I liked money. I knew that I liked nice things, and I knew that nice things cost money. And so I really built a tremendous work ethic. I even worked out at Pabco. I did an internship out there. It was kind of funny. That was terrible. An internship out at Pabco where we made stucco and drywall and those kinds of things. I've never been so dirty or hot in my life. So I've tried a lot of everything. A cousin of mine owned a landscaping company, so I did that for a few years. And if you can tell, I don't do well for long periods of time in the sun, so that was definitely interesting. Then I applied to work for the state, doing some mechanical engineering, which I thought was kind of cool. I was really doing more civil engineering, but I was still going to school, so I was getting paid really well while going to school at the same time. They were pretty flexible with my schedule. But what I started to notice was that engineers in general, but especially in the county, they didn't really live a great life. And what I started to define as a great life was being able to make really good money, being able to control your time, being able to keep and have good relationships and build your family life, and being able to do the things that you want to do and take care of the people around you. And so when I looked at that in engineering, I didn't feel like that was very possible. It seemed like most of them were not able to do that. Most of them were divorced multiple times. Most of them didn't talk to their kids because they sacrificed everything to become engineers. And then they sacrificed everything to make money. And so all of the other things in their life had kind of fallen away. And as I looked at this and I saw that that was a reoccurring theme, it didn't appeal to me. I realized that it probably wasn't going to work out. If I was going to invest the rest of my life, 20, 30 years working at something, do I want to end up with money? And most of them didn't even keep any of the money afterwards, but then also have a broken family and not talk to my kids. And to me, it just wasn't worth it. So I kind of went through this phase of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. Like I said, I was always trying to make money on the side, doing things like that. I started working with this company as a client almost 2010, where I had a bunch of debt. They helped me get out of debt. They helped me save a bunch of money. I lost a ton of money in the stock market when it crashed. All of my money was in my 403b. I started building a performance shop. I took all of my money, don't do this, take all of my money out of my 403b, my retirement program, performance shop, building race cars. So I had a 10-second Trans Am, built a 600 horsepower, 700 torque Camaro, a lot of cool stuff. I had a bunch of fun. But what I ran into was the other people who had owned performance shops and that I was kind of taking counsel from, or I was at least watching them, same thing. They were getting divorced every couple years, and they weren't really close with their kids because still they were sacrificing a lot of time. And as I did that, I was working 17, 18-hour days. I was up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, in bed 1, 2 o'clock at night. I remember my friends calling me like, "Hey, you want to go hang out?" I'm like, "No, man, I got to work. Like I'm building this business." But I never was able to really see the light at the end of the tunnel. I knew that as I started to get married and as I started to have kids, that I was never going to be able to leave that lifestyle and that amount of work because it wasn't something that could compound. It wasn't something that could build exponentially. So I'm coming into this office, actually this office right here, and I was talking to some of the guys that were working here. They were helping me, like I said, get out of debt and save some money. And it was interesting to me because they would just leave in the middle of the day. They were making $250,000, $500,000 a year, but they would leave to go watch their daughter's softball game. And I remember going with them a couple times, and I was looking around, and it was so weird to me. They were one of maybe 1 or 2 parents that were actually there at their softball game. They were the only parent who was at every one of their softball games. Yet they had a tremendous lifestyle. Yet they made great money. Yet they controlled their time, and they went to Hawaii every year. And I remember the daughter actually invited her kindergarten class for everybody to come to Hawaii for her birthday because it was right around her birthday time that they were going. And they're getting the calls from the teacher going, "Hey, can we come to Hawaii with you?" And so it was hilarious to me, right? And I'm like, man, I can't even think that big. I don't even know if I could ever do that. But if I could just make what I'm making doing engineering, but control my time, I would be way happier. It would be a much more fulfilling life for me. I could get married and I could have kids and I could be there for them and I could be a good husband and I could be a good spouse and I could take care of the kids and do all of those things that I've always wanted to do, but I didn't know how to do. And I started. So I got started, and I didn't really do a fast start. I wasn't a fast start. I was working so many other things. I told you how many hours I was working. So I was working during the day, and then I had the performance shop that I was doing at night. So anything that didn't get finished by my guys, I had to go in and finish. So I never slept, which is not good for you. My body was deteriorating. My back, I still have issues with because you're under cars and stuff all the time. And I was looking around, and I was looking at a lot of the guys who are mechanics for a long period of time. And if you know any of them, you probably have an uncle or somebody who works on cars. They can barely move. They're always taking pain pills. They can't sleep. And I was like, man, do I really want to sacrifice my body for that? Because how can you live a good life without your health? Doesn't make sense. And it's not like they made tremendous money. It's not like they sacrificed their health for a couple of years and it paid off big. It was like they just sacrificed their health for something that they didn't have to do. They just didn't know any better. And so I don't know why I kind of had that vision into the future of what my life was going to look like. So I was running appointments. I didn't own a suit. My first suit I ever bought, I bought here. So I'm going on these appointments and I was raggedy. I was dirty all of the time. I was oil covered, everything. So if you can imagine, the appointments didn't go well. Everybody trusted me. Everybody liked liked me, but they didn't trust me with their money. So it was a little bit of a process. It was a little bit of a transition for me to come into the industry. But what I got out of it, and so long story short, what has made the biggest difference in my life and what I've seen make the biggest difference in people's lives who get started with us and really put this thing to the test is my faith life got better. I didn't have time to go to church before. I didn't have time to read scriptures and prayers in the morning. I didn't have time to do any of that stuff. I didn't have time for small groups. I didn't have time to do anything in relationship to faith whatsoever. And now I do. My relationships with my family and my friends. Yeah, I spent time with them, but as you can kind of relate with me, I was there, but I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was there, but I wasn't present. Because I was always thinking about what I should be doing. I was always thinking about work. So when I was at work, I was upset because I wasn't with my family. And then when I was with my family, I was upset because I didn't get the stuff done at work. And so I was always in this guilt mode. I never felt like I was where I was supposed to be at the right time. And I knew that I was never going to be able to build a strong family unit into the future. So I kind of got to a point where I was like, man, I don't know if I'll ever get married. I don't know if I'd want to bring kids into this world because I don't think I could do that as well. It's not in my capacity to have that as well. Which now I can. Financially, I worked my butt off. It really hit me hard when somebody said, if working hard paid well, then construction workers would be the best paid, highest paid people in the world. But they're not. How many people do you know that are out there shoveling asphalt and they work their butt off, and thank God for them. But they aren't the ones that make all of the money. So I started to understand and started to think about these things and realize that I need to figure out how to way to work with my mind more so than with my body. Also my health. As we're on that, my health got a lot better because I wasn't leaning over in crazy areas and wasn't consuming all those chemicals and all of those things. I learned how to eat healthier. I learned how to take care of my body. I had my mentor here told me that what's the point of making all of this money if you don't live a long, healthy life? What's the point of it? So I started really taking care of my health. And I learned how to have fun. It wasn't something I knew how to do before. I had fun, but it wasn't really fun. You know what I'm talking about, that stuff that seems like it'd be fun, but then you do it and you're like, oh, that wasn't really all that fun. I wish I wouldn't have spent all my money on that. So I learned what really makes me happy and what brings me fulfillment. And I can spend way less money, but I can spend it on stuff that makes me happy, and I get way more fulfillment out of it. Me going out to dinner with a friend and paying $100 for dinner gives me way more fulfillment than I would when I was spending thousands of dollars of something else. And so I learned that about myself. So if you could figure out how just to make yourself happier, just to be more fulfilled, and how to save money for once and not be in debt, and be more present around your family and your kids, and you could figure out how to be better connected with whatever it is spiritually that you believe in. Don't you think your life would be better? Like, what other areas would you want to improve besides that? I don't think there's a whole lot of them. And so overall, I've just become a better human being. I'm more patient. I'm more kind. I'm more understanding because I've been there. I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to not know where my next meal is going to come from. I learned work ethic, and I think I have even better work ethic here. I'm more honest in keeping my commitments. If I say I'm going to do something, my word is my bond, and I give this to you as well. If I tell you I'm going to be somewhere with you and we have an appointment together, I will be there or I'll be dead. Literally, that's the only way I'm not going to be there, is if I died along the way. And that wasn't me before. I would stub my toe and I'd find an excuse on why I couldn't keep a commitment for something. Human nature, I've learned a lot about human nature. I've learned a lot about mindset. I've learned about how to be happy, how to stay excited, how to be positive, how regardless if it feels like the world's falling around us, through all of this stuff. And this was the biggest thing for me going through all of this pandemic, was like, I saw these people freaking out and watching the news and like people committing suicide and all that stuff. And I was like, man, thank God. I'm so thankful that for the last 6 years, I've been working on my mindset, that I've been working on how to deal with this stuff. And so I assessed for a couple days. I talked to some nurse friends. I got the information. I got everything I needed to know on how to be safe and not to touch my face and everything I needed. And then after those couple days, I got back to work and I was at it. Even though I was working from home, but my mind never really got cluttered with all of the craziness that's going on. I still see people on social media that are caught up on it. They literally lost the last 6 months of their life because of this crazy stuff that's going on, and because they're around social media all of the time. My persistence. If I want something, I'm going to get it. Like my mom, I learned a lot of that. I'm more courageous. I found ways to actually help people. When I was doing my performance job, a lot of what I was doing there was because I wanted to help people. But what I realized was it was just putting a Band-Aid. Giving people money generally is just enabling them for whatever they're doing. And I didn't have the tools or the resources to be able to teach them how to take care of themselves, how to teach them to fish instead of giving them the fish. And so now I have that capability. I've increased my capacity. I've increased my energy. I feel better. Literally, when I say every measurable category of my life is better because I've been here, 100% accurate. And I hope you have the same thing. And I don't know anybody who's been here for a year, 2, 3 years who couldn't say the same thing, that their life hasn't gotten better. And so I challenge you, if you're going to invest your time and you're going to do something to make a difference, if you want to make a difference in not just your life, but in your kid's life, in your parents' life, in maybe your great-parents, great-grandparents' life, maybe in your grandkids' life, do you know that you can affect 5 generations? You can make a difference for 5 generations by the work that you're willing to put in. And I started learning statistics. Do you know that 80% of wealthy people built it in their lifetime? They weren't given it. And that's not what the media or anybody else will tell you. But if you look up the numbers, most people who became wealthy did it on their own terms. And so we have the ability to be able to do that here. If you look at what the people in our company are making, they make millions of dollars a year. They live a great lifestyle. They're great with their spouses. They're great with their kids. They travel all of the time. And that's just, maybe that's not for you. Maybe that's not something you want. And that's okay too. But if that's something that you're thinking about and that's something that you'd like to work towards and you would like to dedicate the next 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of your life to actually making a difference in, this is the place to do it. This is the only vehicle that I have found that is credible, that does a great job for the consumer of something that I would actually want to talk to people about. I don't know anything else that impacts families the way that our stuff does. I don't want to sell donuts or shampoo or anything like that. So combining all of those things and being in a professional environment and all of the things that we're able to do and that we provide not just for ourselves but for other people, I've found here. And I know you will too. If you're willing to put in a little bit of time, a little bit of sweat equity, and come learn this thing. Come make your life better. But it's going to take a little bit of time. It's not easy. It's probably not the easiest thing that I've done for sure. But I think living a miserable life is way harder. I think going through divorce and not talking to kids, I think that's way harder. I think living out on the streets, it's way harder. What we do is not that hard. We've got to talk to some people. We've got to see if people are interested. We've got to help them save some money. We've got to help them put some stuff in place that if anything happens to them, that their kids aren't left on the street. Like, it's not hard. It's not digging ditches. We're not hauling dirt. What we do is not that difficult, and yet they pay us so well to do it. It's amazing to me. So come check this thing out. Really, come test drive it. Take the keys to the car. Let's go take this thing for a spin for a while. Do it for 6 months or a year. And if your life isn't changing, you don't think your life is getting better, and you're not falling in love with who you're becoming, then don't do it. And nobody will fault you for that. The only way that you'll fault yourself and the only way that there'll be regret is if you came this far and you were put in all of the things that happened in your life for you to be here, and then you didn't follow through on it. You didn't even try. That's the only way you're going to regret. And if you ever get a chance, I challenge you, go to an old folks home. You know the number one challenge that they have, the number one thing that they talk about the most is regret. And that's the last thing I think that I want to have on my deathbed is regretting that I didn't try. Regretting that I didn't give something, for once in my life, that I didn't give something my all. So I think you should come join us. I think we should lock arms together and we'll drag you across the finish line kicking and screaming if we have to. But I hope we get a chance to meet each other soon, and let's go do this thing.